we're now going to turn to a very interesting question in astrobiology. Are there any intelligent civilizations in the universe? And probably some of you have come to this course because of this interest in the question, is there anyone out there? Well, before we even address this question, I should say there's no empirical evidence for extraterrestrial life at the current time. There's no good evidence for UFOs or contact with alien intelligence. But nevertheless, it is a serious question in astrobiology. What are the possibilities for alien intelligence? And what would happen if we made contact with an alien intelligence? One of the first people to think about this question was Frank Drake. Frank Drake is an American astronomer and astrophysicist and one of the pioneers of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. He was also one of the founders of the SETI program, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And in 1961, he formulated the famous Drake equation to estimate the number of intelligent civilizations in the universe. Before we have a quick look at that equation, we should, however, start with a question: what do we mean by a civilization? When we want to communicate with intelligences, what do we mean by that? Well, we could spend a long time trying to define a civilization, but one way in which astronomers have defined a civilization is a population which has developed the ability to communicate with us, for example, using radio waves. And this seems a reasonable definition because if they can't communicate with us, we can't engage in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence and try and pick up their radio waves or their signals in the first place. So if we're looking for civilizations, we really need to look for aliens that have developed the ability to communicate with us. So it seems reasonable, at least from an operative point of view, to define a civilization as a population of aliens that have developed the ability to communicate with us. Frank Drake composed this famous equation in the early years of the SETI program, and it calculates the number of communicative civilizations in the universe. This is the equation, and it's made up of a series of terms. The first term is the rate of formation of suitable stars, such as our Sun, in the universe. And then we multiply that by the fraction of these stars with planets. And then we have to multiply that by the number of Earth-like worlds that are in those planetary systems that have formed around stars. And then, of course, we're only interested in planets that have formed life. So the next term in the equation multiplies that number by the fraction of these planets where life has developed. And then we're interested in the fraction of those planets where intelligence develops. So we multiply that number by the number of sites, the number of planets where intelligent civilizations have evolved. And then, of course, not all those civilizations may be communicating or attempt to communicate. So we then multiply that number by the fraction of communicating planets, the fraction of planets that have civilizations engaging in some attempt to communicate. And then finally, of course, not all those civilizations may live indefinitely. Some of them may be destroyed. So we have to multiply that number, that final number, by the lifetime of communicating civilizations. If we multiply these terms in the Drake equation together, we end up with the number of communicative civilizations in the universe or the galaxy, depending upon how we carry out that calculation. Well, as you can guess, all of these terms are open to huge controversy. As we begin to discover extrasolar planets around other stars, we can put a greater degree of certainty on the fraction of stars that have planets and the fraction of those planets that might have habitable conditions. Frank Drake originally estimated that there were 10,000 communicative civilizations in our galaxy. It does seem like stars that are orbited by planets are the rule rather than the exception, and this might give us greater hope that there would be a large number of habitable planets throughout the universe. But nevertheless, trying to understand those terms in the Drake equation, trying to quantify them and come up with some sort of number of intelligent civilizations in the universe clearly remains one of the most challenging, but nevertheless interesting problems in astrobiology. So what have we learned? We've learned that Frank Drake created an equation to guess how many intelligent civilizations could exist in the universe. This is based on a number of factors that we often have to estimate. Frank Drake estimated 10,000 communicative civilizations in our galaxy. And these sorts of calculations underpin the active search for extraterrestrial intelligence.